I can tell you all the things not to do. Get on social media and just Google search lazy layoffs, because there's been so many poorly done ones. Just be empathetic, lead with your heart. Know that this is, one, not an easy decision for the company, but fuck the easy decision for the company, right? Worry about the person that it's affecting.
Yeah. Let's think about people, maybe.
Yeah, let's think about how long we can get their benefits to last. Like, okay, we're going to give them a severance. Can we afford to maybe instead of 4 do 8, or hopefully it's more than that, but you know what I mean? And then can we go ahead and extend their benefits until the end of the year or whatever it is? Like, be thinking of resources too.
Welcome to It Gets Late Early. Today I have Jamie Jackson with me. She is the last of the trio of the HR Besties to come and interview with us here on It Gets Late Early. And she's also someone that I have followed for quite some time on social media. She is the absolute genius behind the very popular accounts like Millennial Misery, Humorous Resources, and more recently, Horrendous HR. So happy to have you here, Jamie.
I am so glad to be here. You're 3 for 3 now.
3 for 3. I mean, I couldn't go without getting you on the show as well. I've
felt like I kind of nuzzled you.
No, you didn't. You just
nuzzled you into this one.
I believe the way. Yeah, I believe the way you phrased it was me next, and I was like, that's very. It was succinct. It was, and I was like, absolutely. I mean, gosh, I'm so glad you asked. So happy to have you here.
Happy to be here.
All right. So first and foremost, we are both fellow millennials, and I just want to understand, what drove you to create these humorous outlets to get us away from the indignities of the corporate world? Like, what was it that pushed you to actually put these plans in action to make people laugh, and why?
Yeah, the pandemic. I think a lot of us kind of got our jump during the pandemic, right? Because we were just sitting at home on our phones and looking for entertainment. But
so much PTSD.
Oh God, yeah, I know. So I was working in a clinic, a healthcare clinic in Human Resources. Oh God,
you were a healthcare worker during the pandemic. Jeez, thank you. Thank you for your service.
So I was the HR director over 4 nonprofit clinics too, during the pandemic. And so I kind of felt like I was losing my mind because I was also the department of one. And things were just changing so quickly, and pretty much every morning me and the medical director would come together because there was no working from home at the clinic. Like, you were in, and we would look at what the CDC changed overnight and how we were going to protect not only our staff, but our, the patients as well. Because this was, a lot of these people were underserved because it was a nonprofit clinic. So we were very mindful of that. So really, I needed an outlet, and I didn't know what that outlet was, but I had always had this idea of humorous resources in my head, because, HR in general gets a very bad rap. And trust me, I get it. I've been doing this for 21 years, but they get a really bad rap, and especially online, but there really hadn't been a whole lot of HR voices online at that time. And so I created Humorous Resources first in September of 2020. And I was lucky because I never did it for fame or fortune. I just wanted to have an outlet and tell my little jokey jokes, and hopefully a few people laughed. And shortly after that, I realized I had so much more in my brain based on being a millennial and elder millennial jokes and nostalgia. And I thought,
they're good.
I want to do something else too. So I created Millennial Misery the summer of 2021. And
it's that recent.
Yeah,
I feel like it's been with me for so long, man.
So, but if you think about it, it's going to be what, 3 this year?
I guess. But what is time anymore? It's all such a blur.
Really, even since 2019 feels like a flash.
Right? Like what?
Yeah. What is happening? And then, probably the last 2 years, I created Horrendous, and Horrendous is really just me. So Humorous is not only showcasing my memes that I created, but also memes from other content creators, reels from other content creators, and like tweets from comedians and stuff I just find funny that relates back to like the corporate world. So Horrendous is just truly all me. So it's typically memes I've created related to human resources, and then reels or TikToks I created that I post. And it's, like I said, unfortunately, it's just all me.
Oh, stop. We love it. We love it, and it's doing great. But how did you make the decision to shift to have one that was very focused on the content that you were creating?
Well, I think that's what I had always intended for Humorous, was like an HR type meme page, but it turned into something so much more during the pandemic, because I think people were looking for an outlet and funny work from home jokes. And so it took off, and I just didn't feel like it was fair to have HR humor. Like, I still sprinkle it in all the time, on Humorous, because that's who I am. That's what I've been doing the last 21 years of my life. But I'm never, you're never going to see me post a meme that HR is not your friend on Humorous. Like, I'm never going to post anything like that. But at the same time, I like to incorporate, because we're all, regardless of what your job title may be, whether it's human resources, accounting, sales, we're all in this corporate world that is absolute chaos, really and nuts. And we're living this weird dysphoria thing. I don't know what 100%. Else to call it, that we're just like going through the motions to get a paycheck, to increase shareholder value, and it's so.
Yep. That's why I wake up every day, Jamie.
Yeah. So that's really
increase
why
shareholder value.
Shareholder value. I mean, that's the importance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Make some VC or private equity company very rich. That's what drives me, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get the need for that. And I think what's so great about what you do is you're shedding light on some realities and just using humor, right? Like, humor can be such a way to bond throughout chaos. And that's desperately what we needed in the time of COVID. And I would suggest also now, where we're all still kind of trying to get back to whatever the heck normal is. Like, I don't even know what it is anymore. But, you said something in there, which was HR is not your friend. And that is something that I hear all the time. And while I understand its roots, right, I think one other part of this equation that is not discussed openly as much, and thankfully you and HR Besties do this often now, is the fact that, HR is not necessarily this evil entity like coming for you, right? The HR team is typically there certainly to serve both the employee and the employer, but you're not the people, saying, I think we really need to do layoffs. Like, that decision is coming from, for example, another person in the company, and HR is kind of merely the messenger in most cases, right? You're actually often the first people to be on the layoff list. So it's like, this is not fair. So I think it's really great that you guys are spreading that message, because it's just, you guys are employees too, right? Like, we all face these same things. You have to toe the company line. Your job is hard.
That is one of the main reasons we even created HR Besties, is we felt like, the three of us being HR content creators, it was important to kind of not only create a community for other HR people that feel the same, you're not our friend, but also to kind of share what HR truly is, because I don't think people understand what HR is. They think, oh, well, they hire and fire, and I think they do payroll, but they don't really actually realize all the different facets that fall under HR, and that we're really trying very hard to speak up to leadership and be employee advocates. But I've also been at jobs where they wouldn't listen to me, and granted, I left too.
Yeah.
But there's I understand the demonizing, because if you got written up, typically that's HR, right? And your boss, right? Like, you're getting written up. So that's where your head goes, right? Like, that's what you're thinking, but it's not HR.
Right. Exactly. And you guys really do have a huge job, and you're dealing with people. And as you guys always say, people be peopling, man. And the stuff that they do is wild. And you can have the best employees, and, you can promote someone who you think is going to be fantastic, but they don't get how to manage other people, right? That happens all the time. And so it's also just sort of falling on the shoulders of HR to try and shepherd people through that transition from employee to, like, there's no handbook that really does it. And you guys, I feel like, bear the brunt of that. And there's so much misery with like horrible bosses. I mean, there are literal movies made about it. And you guys do tons of shows that actually focus on like toxicity of bosses and all of that. So it's a big deal. Like, you're dealing with humans. These aren't robots. They're not programmed. Like, you guys have a big job. So I think it doesn't get the kudos that it deserves.
And no one gets like a guidebook, you know?
No.
Like, leaders don't get a guidebook. I mean, maybe some of them did, like if they're at big enough companies that have like leadership training or whatnot. But, you know, no one's given a guidebook on how to lead or how to even be like a people person or how to even serve.
Soft skills.
So you just kind of figure it out. But that's the thing, is like, if you're leading with an empathetic heart, and you're doing what's right by your employees are going to know that, and they're going to, you know, want to support the company that they're at, and they're going to want to do good work. And it kind of is that simple. And I'm not sure why the mark is missed so much.
It's crazy. It's people forget the humanity of the others in their organization. And I actually just put up a thread that went kind of wild. And it was basically asking people to respond with, what was the title of the email that you received that was the meeting invitation for your layoff call? And the stuff that mine was, for example, team update. And it was with my boss and the head of HR. And it was for 15 minutes. And I knew exactly what it was. And you know what? Clear as kind. I was like, all right, this is coming. I had already seen the writing on the wall. I was prepared. I was actually elated because I was already looking for another job. And I was like, sweet, I'm going to get severance. Yes. Unemployment. Yes. Like, great. But in other cases, the stories that I saw were just outrageous. Like, Dan from HR wrote that someone actually sent him an email that said something to the effect of like, team update, and in parentheses, not layoffs.
Oh my God.
And it was a layoff meeting. And I'm like, there's a special place in hell. There's a special place in hell for a person who would think that that was a good idea. Like, that is so cruel. There was another one that was titled Success Initiatives. There were people who received calls at 9 p.m. from their boss. Like, they thought it was an emergency. There were people whose computers just full on shut down. Like, the stuff that you hear is nuts. And it's like, if you could just have some human decency, think of how far that would go.
Exactly.
Clear as kind.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. I don't understand why the human in human resources is so missed sometimes. And again, you guys are the messengers, right? Like, I assure you that HR was not behind all of those terrible things that I just mentioned. They were merely there on the 2-line, sitting there delivering the script, right? Yeah. So how have you found it possible, or have you found it possible, to break through to some people who are, for whatever reason, reluctant to be more human in the workplace?
For me, at least, I've always had luck because I'm very authentic and I'm 100% me 100% of the time. So you know what you're getting. But with that, I enjoy helping people. And so even though you may ask me a question that I have answered 7,000 times before, I'm going to act like it's the first time anyone asked me, and I'm going to stop what I'm doing. And I'm going to help you. And
you're not going to say per my last email?
No,
bitch.
And I want, like, it's that level of customer service that was kind of instilled in me early in my career. And I just have carried it, with me. And I think it's so important to remember that the employees that are coming to you with a question need your help. You are their resource. Yes. Is information possibly out on a SharePoint or wherever? Probably. But maybe not. But it's okay for you to be like, oh, great. Actually, let me send you the link. It's right here on page 8 or whatever. Like,
it's so, FAQs, right?
Exactly. It's so simple to just be authentic and kind and genuine. And I feel like I've broken that barrier with people that don't trust HR from that in the companies I've been in, because it's just so, just be honest with them also. But, I'm lucky because I'm in a leadership role now. But even like managing up to your leaders in HR and telling them, no, I really think this is how we should approach it. Or engagement, let's maybe not give out company swag. Maybe let's give company, I don't know, with monetary value,
Like,
you know,
pay them.
but speaking up and trying your best to tell those leaders in the company, like, they don't want another fucking Starbucks card, Danny. Okay.
No,
Give
they
them
really
some
fucking
money,
don't.
like give them an extra PTO day, or, you know, like, and just helping being that employee advocate and being the mouthpiece essentially for the mass majority of the employees.
Yeah, that's critical. And I guess I got to ask you this, because you sound like someone who tells it like it is, right? That's very clear from everything from your social media profiles all the way to the way you are in HR Besties. And that's why everyone loves you, because you're exactly who you are. Has that ever gotten you in trouble at work?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Definitely. And like my husband says, I don't know when to shut my mouth, and I don't. Because I'm probably going to give you my opinion even if you didn't ask for it, or,
right.
You know, whatever it is. I yes, of course. I've told the story before on HR Besties, so sorry if this is a repeat, but I'll brief it.
But if it is, these people have really, really good taste in podcasts. So
I
kudos.
was at a company very briefly, and there was a harassment claim that came on my desk, and I was, of course, only HR, Department of One, like always. And I investigated, found out that, you know, I had text messages, I had emails of this one manager. I ran it up the chain, and the owner of the company told me that I was meddling and that HR always meddles. And I said, you know, I said to him, hey, sir, I'm not meddling. This claim was brought to me. It's legitimate. Now other people have come forward of this harassment claim. And this person, this manager needs, you know, this person needs to be let go, period.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like a good old boys club. And I
familiar.
knew speaking up to him, I was fucked. And I was, and I was lucky. I found a job quickly and I got out of there, but it's, you know, I'm never gonna stop fighting for what is right. And so I was lucky that I couldn't have quit the job without having another one lined up. And I luckily found one quickly, but that would have been one of those cases where I like literally would have probably went guns blazing out. Like, I don't have another job. Screw it. You know?
It reminds me of the flight attendant who like was. Do you remember this guy? I forget his name, but he was like a legend.
He took the slide.
Yes,
that
guy was like, "Fuck you guys,
legend.
I'm out." Like I think he was supposed to get a reality show, and I was like, "Dude, I would watch that." Like quitting in these like that is
wow. That guy's a legend, but he had kind of like a lot of money, so I don't know if it was worth it. Maybe for him.
In that case, yeah, the airlines have some pretty strict rules. Like maybe corporate would be a little easier to go out in some sort of ways of. I know. I mean. We all love you, man. I don't know your name, but we love you. But yeah, fighting for the little guy. But yeah, no, there is a price sometimes to be paid. And like certain times you don't have the ability, you don't have the psychological safety, you don't have the like wherewithal, you don't have the time, energy, whatever to do it. And, you know, I've had situations where I've known if I say something, I'm going to be on the shit list for the rest of my time at this company, and it's probably going to be the precursor to my doom. Like it's going to seal my fate here. But there are times when you have to speak up because what has happened is so wrong. I had a founder of a company yell at me for trying to get a deal closed on a day off for him. I was like, first of all, dude, you don't get a day off. You're the founder and CEO of a company. If anyone should be mad about talking to you on my Slack, on my phone on my day off, it's me, your employee, okay? Yeah. And he yelled at me. He was like, I'm sitting on the couch next to my wife trying to enjoy my day off, and I don't appreciate you asking to have a phone call so that I can find out why you need the software signed today. And I'm like, I followed your software procurement process to a T, and you're the last line of defense, dude. Like, I'm not having fun either. And he was so rude to me, so condescending. And I hung up the phone and I called my boss immediately. And I was like, hey, dude, this happened. It is unacceptable. I will not be talked to like this. I refuse to be treated like this. If he's treating me like this, God help younger employees who are earlier in their career. God help our vendors, our partners. You know, this is not an isolated incident, and it is not okay. It's the kind of behavior that gets VCs to kick founders out of their own companies.
Yep.
I refuse to be treated this way.
Yep.
And so my boss was a prince, and he did all the right things because I was watching him. I was like, this is going to tell me whether I quit today or, and he did all the right things. Check, check, check. And the next week, so he got the deal done, whatever. The next week, he's like, okay, so what do we do here? Like, how do we make this right? And I was like, well, we don't do anything. I did the right thing. I actually tried to save the company money. I don't give a shit if we save $5,000. I'm doing it to do the right thing as an employee on my day off. And he was like, well, what do you want? And I was like, well, I think the CEO should probably apologize to me. I don't think it's going to happen. Well, I actually got a Zoom request from the CEO. And he apologized to me over Zoom, and he didn't mean a word of it. He did it, but I was like, there's no way I have a future at this company from here on out. Like, absolutely no way. He hated me from that moment. I was not invited to meetings of my own initiative, like all this stuff. Like, so I was like, all right, my time here's done. So that was whatever. It's fine. The layoff was a blessing. But point is, you sometimes know that when you speak up and you do the right things and you self-advocate or you advocate on behalf of others, there is an actual cost to you as an employee. Mm-hmm. There's a career limiting move cost to you. And sometimes you can make the call to do it and sometimes you can't. Yeah. I, like you, am someone who has a very strong sense of right or wrong, and I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut when I see things that are not okay. Mm-hmm. And, who knows, maybe I'd be CEO of something by now if I'd just shut up more and gone into the politics game.
Where would I be?
Right? Like, where would we be?
Shut my mouth.
But Jamie, I work in the tech industry, or I should say I've built my career in the tech industry, which is, it's an interesting one. And we've had like scores of layoffs, as we were kind of describing earlier, and it's been gutted. Like, the industry has been decimated. I want to ask you, because these layoffs are happening, do you have sort of a sense of what the most effective way to do them is, or the best way, the most humane way to do them? Because what I'm seeing, like I said in those comments, nuts. We know they're like a masterclass on what not to do with layoffs, but do you have a sense of, what's a good way in a really shitty situation? Like, what's the best way to deliver that news in your estimation from your
I don't
roles?
know if I could say a good way, but I could say all the things not to do.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of times, unfortunately, layoffs it's not a personal thing, right? So it's not like Jamie sucks at her job layoff or even necessarily a performance issue. A lot of times it's really just a giant math equation, right? So we need to figure out X dollar amount, and here's how we're going to do it. And, they pull up maybe a giant spreadsheet in a boardroom somewhere, and they're looking at salaries. They might not even be looking at names. They're looking at salaries, and they're going, okay.
Employee X. Yeah.
Yep. And there, and now we got to cut 70,000. We're so close. Who makes around? Yeah. I mean, and a lot of times it. Don't get me wrong. I know that there are some that are not. I don't want to make people upset, but a lot of times it really is just a giant math equation. It's not personal. Yeah, so totally. I think anyone who has been affected by a layoff, do remember that it sucks. It feels personal, but unfortunately, you were a part of the equation, the math equation. Also, obviously, I love this thread that you did, because don't probably go to your thread and look at what you should not caption. Emails, no quick chat, no, this isn't a layoff, in parentheses. Just exactly say what it is. Team update. I also really hate that. A lot of times they did like a group Zoom interview. I know a lot of us are remote now. Where I work currently, we're all remote. So that would be how it, but don't get everyone with the CEO crying on a Zoom call.
Gosh.
Like,
so bad.
I don't want fake empathy, know. Also, like, there was one in Austin, YouTube Music, that was handled extremely poorly. They gathered everyone
about that one.
Yeah, it was I found it on TikTok. It was like a TikTok someone filmed.
Wow.
They gathered everyone around. It was in office, and they're telling them this, and someone literally goes, okay, well, can we leave now? And the guy goes, no, not yet. No, if you're telling me that I'm being laid off, I'm leaving. Like, what? You know? So I can tell you all the things not to do. Get on social media and just Google search lazy layoffs, because there's been so many poorly done ones. Just be empathetic, lead with your heart. Know that this is, one, not an easy decision for the company, but fuck the easy decision for the company, right? Worry about the person that it's affecting.
Yeah. Let's think about people, maybe.
Yeah, let's think about how long we can get their benefits to last. Like, okay, we're going to give them a severance. Can we afford to maybe instead of 4 do 8, or hopefully it's more than that, but you know what I mean? And then can we go ahead and extend their benefits until the end of the year or whatever it is? Like, be thinking of resources too. I think another thing is, I've seen before in layoffs that I haven't seen even recently was, like job consulting as well. So like they help you find a job. Like there's so many different things that we could do. Provide access to the EAP. That they're just chopping people and the next day it's no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I've had one layoff that I thought was handled extremely well. They handled everything else there horribly, but the layoff was done really great, and they did actually give me access to. It was some sort of. It was like, it wasn't Calm. That was just like their basic app, but it was like, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but they actually gave me access to coaching. Like I could go and get career coaching.
That's amazing.
I did, and I was like, I had like. I'm not kidding. It was like 8 sessions of career coaching, which that's costly. So I was like A+ to you guys for this. Like it was actually legitimately helpful. It was kind of like, like life/business coaching. So it was great. It was like, we're going to get you through this, and it was, you could pick your provider. God, I wish it was like BetterHelp maybe. No, something else. Anyway, but the point is like, it really, really made an impact on me. And when I think about that company and my departure from that company, all the other stuff that led up to it sucked, but that departure was executed well. And I don't talk smack about the way I was let go at all, because it was actually really kind and really clear. So love that for us. Right. And I'm wondering, do you think there's just more access to this information right now? Or do you think that this has actually gotten worse in terms of the humanity lost in the whole layoff process? Like, has it always been like this and just no one had their phone out recording it for TikTok?
I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. Like you just hear about, especially in like the tech industry, you just hear about so many more layoffs and it just, like, I saw a graphic not that long ago of all the companies that have like quietly been doing these mass layoffs, and it's just shocking. And it's companies that we probably use every day, like Google,
don't be
Spotify.
Evil. Yeah.
Wayfair's not tech, but Wayfair just did a big one. I think, yes, obviously we have access now to the employees more than we did maybe in like, the 80s or even early 2000s. But at the same time, I don't know. It's just a different economy too.
Yes, it's weird out there. The headlines are all over the place. It's like Gen Z is making more money than ever, but like you're not telling us about the cost of living increase. Like,
I might be making. Right? I mean, I'm not Gen Z, but you know what I mean? Like,
I know, we're like, nice try, Maureen and Jamie.
I posted something recently. It was this past weekend, I think, on Humorous and Millennial, and it was millennials are making the most that they ever had, but and the most educated than any other generation, but they're still not making. They're not able to make essentially what their parents did. Like, it doesn't matter in this industry.
No, the life that your parents gave you, if you were fortunate and privileged, is not the life that you can afford to give yourself or your children now.
Yes.
And so we're bringing up millennials. You and I are both proud members, I hope, of the millennial generation. Sometimes I wear it with pride. I'm like, hell yeah, avocado toast all day. And sometimes a shame, but it depends on the situation. But I want to ask you about getting older at work. because that's something that obviously is the subject of this very show. And, we do talk about ageism and the fact that it does go both ways. And especially if you're a woman, you're either too young or too old. You're never just right. It's really awesome. And so ageism is something that is an undercurrent at, I would say, probably every organization. And yet, for some reason, is still somewhat of the elephant in the room. And so I just want to ask you, like, what have you observed about age in your corporate work? And then what have you seen in terms of social media?
Yeah, so I'm an elder millennial, and I'm right on the cuffs there. I'm not quite Gen X, but I'm like right there. So I feel like I identify with some Gen X stuff. Like I have an older brother, so like I know of a lot of like Gen X toys and Gen X things, but I'm truly a millennial at heart. And so I remember being a young little 20-something-year-old Jamie in, my first corporate jobs, and being shameful that I was a millennial because they would have like generation. I specifically remember when I was working for Marriott, we had a training, and I will say Marriott does do great corporate trainings for their employees. But
that's rare.
I was in a leadership position, and yes, I was young. But I remember the millennial slide being bashing millennials and how they don't have a work ethic. And I remember sitting there being the youngest person in the room at the time in the leadership, this is leadership, and literally hanging my head in shame. And like, we had to like put down what our generation was on a note card and like put it in front of us. And
oh my gosh.
I just remember being so shameful.
So messed up.
Oh, totally. And I remember like when it got to me in this giant ballroom, like explaining to them that, I'm on the cusp. I'm really a millennial.
And like, Gen X.
Yeah. Like I'm trying to like overcompensate that slide isn't true. So like, and then now becoming where boomers are almost not quite exiting, but some of them have exited the workforce and will be. And now it's really Gen X and millennials in those leadership positions. It's been really wild for me to see, and especially in the role of HR, to kind of view it from that standpoint. But you brought up one thing specifically about females, and it's like females are not allowed to age. And obviously in any industry, right? The beauty industry, the film, acting, whatever, they're not allowed to age. But even in corporate, it's almost like they're not allowed to age. And I don't know when it hit me, because I was the youngest for a very long time, and probably up until 5 years ago, which is wild.
I know, you're like, wait a minute.
But because I'm definitely old, but
it was ancient.
But just like the shift, like of even me noticing, like, hold on, I'm not the youngest, I'm not the baby.
Right.
And now
that's a weird moment.
Yeah, and like I said, women aren't allowed to age. So then it's also you look around and you see you're in a leadership role, and there might be one other woman in a leadership role. There might be two, maybe three, but that's it, and then you think, well, and then people are coming up for promotion, and, you see a lot of middle managers that are women. Mm-hmm. And it's like, when do they break up into that next role that, a director or VP or even senior VP, C-suite. So I do find that interesting, especially now. Like, I feel like, hey, and we can get it. And I don't want to get into the pay gap.
Oh, dear God. That's another podcast episode we'll have you back for. Jeez. Yeah. But yeah, it's very interesting. Like, and I think even still, millennials are shamed, but now you see it being Gen Z is shamed because the torch is passed.
Yeah. It's like now, they have boundaries. They're setting boundaries. They want a work-life balance. And people are like, oh my God, I can't
believe what I had to do. Yeah. No, I'm like, thank you, Gen Z. This is actually solid for everyone. Like, we should all be praising you.
Exactly. Like, I would love to shut my computer off at 5. When is that
right? Yeah, that's the dream. Yeah, but that's the thing. We are all so much more alike than we are different. And it's like these things that are good for Gen Z, right, that they're fighting for are good for boomers. They're good for the silent generation if they're still in the workforce, right? It's something that actually extends to everybody as a benefit, and it might mean something different to you depending on your life stage or what you have going on then, right?
I love Gen Z. They're breathing like a light into the
I
corporate
agree.
world that I think has been missing, because a lot of, millennials, we just are like, oh, well, mom and dad told me I need to do this, so I'm going to do it.
We need to stop like so much of this finger pointing that we have in the workplace right now, and just recognize like we all want the same things. We all want to be paid more. We all want flexibility. It might be so you can go to the bar after work. That's
Or
cool.
golf.
Good for you. Or golf. Yeah. Well, men get that anyway. They say it's a business trip.
Yeah.
It's business expense. I mean, I've never been invited to golf, by the way, Jamie, ever in my life.
I haven't either.
Have you?
But granted, yeah. I'm okay with that too.
I mean, it also sounds like the most boring thing in the world, but deals get done,
Yeah.
On the golf
like I'd go to Top Golf.
Yeah. Oh, Top Golf would be cool. Like, yeah, actually, like please invite me.
Or putt-putt.
Right? I also think what is interesting, though, is speaking about age specifically, like the time at which people consider themselves, quote, old, right? And we're obviously joking. You and I are in like our early 40s. We are not old, actually.
I will say, I know we had kind of talked about this before, but, being a creator and being like an elder millennial, the comments I get about my appearance, or like, oh, did you get Botox? Or, it's just so...
What?
Yeah, it's like very shocking and ballsy what people would put on, like, you realize I can see the comments you write under my videos, just about your appearance. And then it's like, but, and what's weird about it too, is like being in the content creator space too, is like, even women don't get as many brand deals, specifically in the corporate content creators. Like I see my friend male content creators getting these big deals with big companies, but you don't see women. And I find that extremely odd. But yeah, that's one thing that really irks me about content creation here lately, is I've noticed, the blue check. I don't care about the blue check. I don't personally have it or want to, but the blue check is given to a lot of males.
Interesting.
Yeah, you'll notice it now.
Wow, I'm gonna go look for that.
Yeah, you'll definitely notice it. And like you'll notice, like, I'm not gonna say there's a name of one brand that's advertising with several mid-level creators, and they're all male, no females. And it's like you kind of wonder, like, how.
And what kind of brand is it? Is it like, I mean, because if it's menswear or something, that makes sense. Okay, that's bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's bizarre.
And so I brought it up to a couple of my male content creator friends, and they literally, of course they didn't, why would it occur to them? But they actually were like, holy crap, you are right. I like, now that you're saying that, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, and then this brand and this, and I'm like, I know. And I don't mean to be that person, but it's hard not to see it.
Wow. You are so right. But there's just this like very disjointed and unfair, imbalanced ageism in our society that, I think about every day. And I think the future, I hope, is not going to be that way for my daughter, because it really is not right. So we got to keep on fighting the good fight, putting our faces out there.
Yeah.
Saying I'm me.
In your cute denim jumpsuit.
Yeah. Alex Mill, everybody. Jamie, we're going to be twinning soon, hopefully in Nashville. At some point. Nashville is one of my favorite cities. I got I did my bachelorette party there. So what you are encountering now there as the capital of the bachelorette party realm.
You were the first,
because of me. I was the first. I was the trendsetter. 2009. But
I probably drank at a bar with you.
I mean, I hope so. I don't think I'm ever allowed back in one bar on that main drag. There was that main drag called. Yeah, that's actually the stage is where we got banned.
Oh my God, stop. Well, the stage is what my friends and I used to call the black hole because we go in as like a group of 10 and like there would only be 8 of us that came out. Like, we're like, where are they? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so wild. Yeah, no, it's actually legitimately the stage. I will save that story for not on the air, but I
Okay,
will give it to you. It's a good one. I've grown, I've learned, I've changed, I've matured, if you will, slightly. But this has been so much fun. And I love everything you've been doing for, I guess now a little bit, right? Since the pandemic and bringing light and levity to our daily lives, which I know we are all desperately in need of. And now you have the HR Besties, which is honestly one of my favorite podcasts out there. So it's such a light, and I really appreciate what you're doing. So thanks for sharing all you have today, and looking forward to connecting later. So where can people find you if they want more? What are your handles?
If you want more of this,
of course they want more.
Obviously, I am 1/3 of the HR Besties. So HR Besties Pod on Insta, Humorous_Resources on Instagram, Millennial_Misery on Instagram, and then Horrendous_HR on Instagram as well. And I have links to all the other socials on there too.
Love it. We'll put those all in the show notes. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.